The uncommitted vote had a massive showing during Super Tuesday, embarrassing the president. The uncommitted campaign is a group of Democrats who show up to the polls to vote uncommitted to show Joe Biden how upset they are with him enabling Israel's genocide against the Palestinians. And they are getting massive numbers. The uncommitted campaign received so many votes in Michigan and Minnesota that uncommitted actually received delegates in those two states. Joe Biden losing 100,000 votes in Michigan in a general election against Trump means that the election is over. And Democrats are extremely delusional if they thought that this uncommitted campaign only consisted of Arabs, as if Arab Americans and Muslims are the only people who care about opposing a genocide. The data shows that a lot of the uncommitted votes is coming from the Black and Latino community, showing solidarity between Black, Latinos, and Arabs that was desperately needed. We are seeing the historic Democratic Party coalition being completely dismantled because of Joe Biden's insistence on supporting Israel as they commit their genocide against the Palestinians. Surely the Biden administration sees all these red flags and plans to reach out to all the Black and brown voters, listen to their concerns, and bring them back into the coalition. And Joe Biden is reaching out to Nikki Haley and her supporters instead. Wait, what did Nikki Haley say about the genocide going on in Gaza right now?
And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it.
Finish them. What does it say about Joe Biden and the Democratic Party that they are willing to reach out to Nikki Haley and her genocidal supporters before they even try to reach out to the Black and brown, diverse, uncommitted coalition? Listen, the uncommitted vote campaign is cute. I love that you guys got Democrats in shambles, but unless you're unwilling to vote for Joe Biden in the general election, this means nothing. What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome to another edition of Nick and Night on Thursday. If you want a safe space, if you want somewhere to be free from the clown show known as the State of the Union Address, this is the place to be. This is the place to be. I was thinking about covering it, but I legitimately had no interest. I think I might just follow the highlights. This guy's about to come up there on stage and lie to everybody. You guys know that pause they do. We covered it. We covered the State of the Union last year. I'm not saying we won't in the future. If Trump wins again, we're probably gonna cover his first State of the Union address because it will be a big deal. Trump's first State of the Union address. This State of the Union address was essentially a glorified Biden campaign speech. Legitimately not interested in. So I'm glad. I mean, I see about 400 people in across all platforms already. So I already see a lot of people want to be free from this bullshit. You gotta know Joe Biden gonna say something. We're gonna give humanitarian aid to the people that we are genociding. Then one half of the room gonna stand up and clap. Then the Republicans gonna look like this the whole time. And then you're gonna watch corporate media pretend this is not a clown show. So everyone is already doing it. So if you want somewhere to be free from that nonsense, this is the live stream to watch. But I understand that it's a very significant event. And if you're watching it live, I hope you enjoy the replay of Nick at Night, because we know most people watch the replay. You guys are working class people. I know it's late for some. Some people can't watch the live streams live all the time. So if you watch the State of the Union address, kick back, enjoy the replay of this live stream. This is the only part of the State of the Union address I'm interested in. Look at this. And I already seen footage of many protesters being arrested. We are seeing the fascist crackdown by the West because they are owned by Zionist capital. We are living in a capitalist dictatorship where Zionists, they are in charge. They completely hijacked our system. You guys see in my intro video, we're going to talk about here more, how AIPAC, Israel completely, just they openly brag about it now. They're like, we just had Super Tuesday, and you had AIPAC bragging about the amount of people that they primaried, all the people they got elected. So you have Biden who gave him the State of the Union address, Oh, let me bitch screen this now. Read the tweet. Biden is giving the State of the Union address, and remember, I covered this, and I think I am the only person who covered this. Correct me if I'm wrong, fam. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who covered the fact that 58% of white evangelical voters support a ceasefire. The majority of Jewish voters support a ceasefire. And then when you siphon that to Jewish Democrats, around 67% of Jewish Democrats support a ceasefire. Majority of Black Latino voters support a ceasefire, but we're not getting a ceasefire. What does that tell you about our system? For the people who still are Western chauvinists, for the people who still don't understand why Marxists that levy critiques on the capitalist system. Capitalism does not create democracy. It inherently enables fascism. Everything you was told growing up is not true. These quote-unquote authoritarian countries, largely supported by their people. Cuba, largely supported by the people. Russia, Putin has an 80% plus approval rating. Xi Jinping and the Chinese government has around an 80% plus approval rating because they provide for their people and they listen to the people. Under a capitalist system, you listen to who have capital. And who has the most capital? The Zionist. AIPAC pledged $100 million. I get a little ahead of myself. But this is why you see people protesting Biden's speech, because these people's voice has been removed. Every single person who wants a ceasefire, your voice have been removed from this quote-unquote democratic system. So this is the only thing I'm going to cover from the State of the Union address. And then I'm going to explain how AIPAC is openly bragging about hijacking our democracy. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters are blocking the motorcade routes as President Biden heads for the U.S. Capitol for the State of the Union address. And I am hearing that Biden is late. So maybe these protests have something to do with it. Who knows? But this is the only part that we care about at Revolutionary Blackout Network, are the people who engaging in direct action. This is why I hate the fact that I live in a flyover state. I wish I was out there in Washington, be able to protest with these people. Washington and the capitals where everything always popping. You know what I mean? So yeah, those protesters are demanding a ceasefire. And everyone should be protesting because we're not getting a ceasefire, despite the fact that majority of people support it, because as I explained, we live in a capitalist dictatorship. And in a country, and this is what I don't understand when liberals and even progressives, they say, oh, we got to defeat Trump because he's a threat to our democracy. This is the democracy that you guys think is worth protecting? A country where studies have shown that whoever raised the most money wins around a 97% rate. Whoever raised the most money wins our elections at around a 97% rate. But people have the nerve to say that Russian elections are rigged, that Nicolas Maduro rigged his elections. This is the definition of rigged elections. When majority of the time you can predict who's going to win based on who the capitalists support. And then you have foreign capitalists, Zionists. You have these colonial psychopaths who completely buy out our government because they fund people who support Israel. And that's why you have both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party that is lockstep on this issue, because there is not a democracy in this country. We live in an unapologetic capitalist dictatorship. So you guys see, let me read this headline first. AIPAC uncorks $100 million war chest to sink progressive candidates. Now, we cover these people. They're not progressive. These are people who are mildly critical of Israel. I mean, these are people who are willing to say what literally everyone else in the world sees, that Israel is slaughtering children. So you don't get a cookie for saying what everyone in the world sees. You're not a progressive if you're saying literally what every other country in the world is saying, except the most unhinged far-right regimes like the United States. But they are mildly critical sometimes of Israel. And now they are pledging money to defeat them. Now here's AIPAC just openly bragging about it here. And they do it all the time. If you go on the website before, or I should say after the end of the last midterms, AIPAC on their website had statistics on the amount of people who won. And they're like, we won like 97% of our elections. This time they batted at 100% this election. So for all the people who believe we have a democracy, for all the people who completely turn their brains off, like the Bernie Sanders, because I hear them say this stuff. Like you hear AOC, you hear the people that follow them, they say this stuff. I heard, I ain't gonna say no name, no need to drop names. But in general, you gotta know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna drop names. All these people be saying this stuff. This is democracy that is worth defending? Here's AIPAC. Being pro-Israel is good policy and good politics. 100% of AIPAC endorsed Democrats on the ballot last night won their election. And I believe you have George Soros. Let me show you guys this. Maybe actually I don't want to use Wall Street Journal because I think they are locked. Let me find another one. Oh, here it is. This is actually the exact article I used. Now, I am literally showing you guys the factual numbers of how our system have been completely hijacked by Zionists and capitalists who fund colonial projects, because that is what capitalists do. Which is why I had the ideology that scares the shit out of them. That is their counter. Marxism, communism. We are the anti-colonial movement. We are the movement for the people. We are the ideology that challenges the ruling class more than ever. Because no matter what kind of populism you pretend you support, if you give the power to the capitalist class to select the people who have power, it's completely irrelevant. You have MAGA that's trying to wish Trump into being an anti-war candidate, but Trump is just another pro-Israel cuck, just like the rest. He's finally being asked about Gaza, and now he's saying, "Yeah, I'll be all for what Netanyahu said. I'm Netanyahu's bitch too." That's essentially what Trump said. I'm gonna show you guys later. So if you're anti-establishment, you should never support the system that enables the people who are corrupt to gain the most power. That, to me, that seems obvious. American billionaires spent a record $880 million on U.S. midterm elections. You're allowed to talk about that. But if you bring up the fact that Zionists are among the capitalists who bought the elections, then they programmed our society to call you anti-Semitic. And now we know that anti-Semitism means absolutely fucking nothing. We know the narrative that came from Zionists in the West has been full of shit. They said you're anti-Semite if you float conspiracy theories that Jewish people secretly run the world, and now realize that no one was actually saying that, minus maybe a few fringe, like legitimately white supremacist Nazi type people. There was the one that was saying that. But what was actually happening, because I listened to what Brother Malcolm X was saying, I listened to many radical revolutionaries like Kwame Ture, who completely dismantled Zionism, and they were saying the same thing to him at the same time, saying you're anti-Semitic, saying that Jews control the world. He said, no, Zionists control the world, and that is 100% true. And so they created, the same way they call everyone anti-Semite, they created this conspiracy theory where people who say that Zionists have unchecked and an unfair amount of power, and they completely bought out our system, they would say, oh, you're spreading anti-Semitic tropes. So you want to know who's one of the biggest Zionists in the world? George Soros. Now, if you mention the fact that George Soros bankrolls the entirety of the duopoly, especially one side of it, the Democrats, they will say, "Oh man, what are you saying? You're attacking Jewish people? You're saying that a Jew is secretly controlling our politics?" That's what they say when the right talk about George Soros. The right don't do the accurate criticism. They bring up all these random stuff about George Soros. But George Soros is a Zionist who bankrolls other Zionists. So do you guys have any idea how much George Soros spent last election? Well, you probably know now because I had it on the screen for a while. If you had a keen eye. So they will say that you are an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist if you bring up the fact that you have Zionists like George Soros controlling our country. But look at this. Out of all the people who donated in the election, the midterm election last year, George Soros spent $128 million. Fam, and I've seen this graph. Hopefully this graph is in this article because I did a hotspot on this video months ago, on this article months ago. The graph, there's not even a close second or third. Like, look at second. Second is 67 million. That's around half the amount that George Soros, the second largest donor, the second largest oligarch in our system, spends half as much as George Soros does on the elections. And people think that it's anti-Semitic to bring this up. And then if you look among the donors, like Richard Johann, he's a Zionist too. So not only do we have the biggest funders of Zionists that bankroll and hijack our elections, we have, sorry, Sean, I answered your question. You said, Nick, what graph? Maybe I can find it. Hopefully they have it in this article. There's a graph that I showed on my hotspot when I covered this a long time ago, where they made a graph of all the largest donors in the last election. And it's like so comical. You had George Soros, you had this Richard Johann dude, and then everyone else was like a distant third, and it wasn't even close. Like those two are by far the largest donors. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. I seen a graph. Hopefully I can find that graph. This is a different article. I'm just explaining what I saw on that graph. Sorry if that was confusing. What I meant that there was a graph, and hopefully I can find that graph because that graph is comical. Because when you see the graph of the numbers they're talking about, you see how, like, all the top donors are Zionists. Every single one of them. There isn't one top 10 donor in the United States that's not a Zionist. But if you bring that fact up, people are like, "Oh, you're spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories." Have you seen the long game that was played on our country that people are just now picking up on? You have people that consider themselves anti-establishment that support pro-Israeli politicians, and I don't like to. I'm sorry to bring up old. I'm sorry to bring up old debates, but I remember I had a debate with Jackson Hinkle, and a lot of MAGA communists to this day still don't like me because I made my disagreements with that strategy known. Their message was that the MAGA constituents has the highest revolutionary potential, which is absurd at face value. But the MAGA movement, which they was selling as this potentially revolutionary movement, was completely cucked to Zionists in Israel. All the big Trump people, Candace Owens is the only example, is like the only person who's been speaking out against this. People are like, "Oh, what about Candace Owens?" She's the only one. She's the only one. All the other big MAGAites are now pro-Israel, unapologetically. Even if people like Tucker Carlson says mild criticisms over Israel, he's doing a State of the Union live stream fact check with Donald Trump, so he's a Trump supporter. So all the MAGA people support a guy who is an unhinged Zionist because they are cut by AIPAC. Actually, I'm going to get to this video later because this is what I'm talking about. I have mentioned this a lot, so I'm gonna show you guys this video because someone finally asked Trump about Gaza. Because MAGA, who've been trying to paint this image of Trump of being anti-war, they've been purposely trying to avoid this topic because they know this exposes them. This is why I was telling MAGA communists it's absurd to pretend these people who are cuts to Israel, which is the majority of the Make Israel Great Again movement are, to pretend that they're fucking revolutionaries. And I'm glad to see our good friends, like Glenn Greenwald, who was friends with a lot of these people on the right. A lot of his coverage has been extremely critical of these people because he's been calling out the right who've been blatant hypocrites about America first. And no, there was actually Israel first the entire time. So here's Donald Trump when asked on this Fox interview.
About your policies for a second. As you know, this president of the United States, when it comes to Israel, is getting protested. Now he seems to be turning on Israel. But the non-committed vote that Biden's getting, they're not going to like you either because you are firmly in Israel's camp, correct? Are you on board with the way the IDF is taking the fight in Gaza?
You've got to finish the problem. You had a horrible invasion. It took place. It would have never happened if I was president, by the way. As you know, Iran was broke, Brian. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas, for Hezbollah. They were broke. This would have never happened. And for another reason, they wouldn't have done it to me. I guarantee you that. They did this because they have no respect for Biden. And frankly, they got soft. And what happened here is incredible. That should never have happened. Likewise.
About your policies for a second. As you know, this president.
You gotta see, if you are against genocide, you are post-duopolis. The people who I cannot take seriously, even when I largely agree with them, are the people who keep pretending that Trump is like this anti-establishment figure when he's supported by one half of the establishment. Makes no sense. And the person I want to call out, and this is me punching up because he's a giant figure, is like Russell Brand. Like I like Russell Brand because of his Ukraine coverage. I had to stop watching this motherfucker because his fucking crazy Trump coverage. His insinuation that Trump is some agent fighting against the machine. And you guys notice that Russell Brand hasn't been covering Gaza. He's busy calling out the conspiracy of the globalists because he's afraid to call them out as what they really are, capitalists. And all these people who've been doing this grip, pretending that MAGA is like this anti-establishment thing, they're not going to call this out. They're going to completely ignore the fact that Trump is 100% supporting the policies of Joe Biden, 100% supporting the policies of Chuck Schumer. He has the foreign policy of Nancy Pelosi. He was just talking about how he stole Iran's oil, stole Iran's money. That's the same thing that Biden is doing. Biden stole like a fucking pirate Iranian oil. And I covered that in my hotspot video. Now you guys see why I love doing hotspot now? It keeps me sharp, man. I'm covering stuff that no one else is covering, my friends. So as a MAGA right pretend that Trump is uniquely tough on Iran, which once again also contradicts the idea that he's anti-war and anti-empire, right? He killed Soleimani, which is a pro-war act. As they're pretending and having this contradiction, Biden's doing the same thing. It's the same foreign policy between both of them, which is why you see the culture war elevated above all else. That's why all of a sudden, people who live nowhere near trans people found the trans issue to be the most important issue in politics to them. Because you have to talk about that. Because if you talk about the actual issues, you know that there's no fucking there's no difference between these parties. Now this is probably the image of the year, my friends. This one right here. Coat Pink and a lot of these protesters have been completely exposing these politicians as the cowards they are. I'll post this on YouTube and on Twitter. This image. Look, bro. This fucking tweet I sent got 20,000 likes, bro. almost 500,000 views, because I said this picture probably sums up our current politics more than any other. Now look at this photo here. We had the activists who are, the people who are actually serious about politics, that know what's going on, who understand the role between civilian and government, on how we hold government accountable, versus these old white suburban peepaws, grandpas, retired capitalists, these boomers that I told you guys about, that betrayed the future generations in a way that we have never seen before. Not talking about the boomers that have seen through the propaganda, I said I respect, but this picture right here represents their generation more than any other. It represents the genocidal psychosis of this country in the West more than any other. These peepaws went to this political event like, we want to see Senator Christian Gillibrand. We watch More Than Joe every day. We watch CNN. This shit is fun. This shit is a team sport, my friends. So they show up to political events the same way that people show up to prep rallies. They treat politics like a team sport. And this is the guy that I watched this video on Tuesday. You guys remember Peepaw here? Shaking with rage?
30,000 people were sending billions of our taxpayers dollars to kill children. 30,000 people have been murdered.
You guys saw me cover this with my friend Andrew on Tuesday. And that was honestly, like, I had my camera off when I covered this. That was honestly probably the hardest I laughed on stream in a very, very long time. At least a year or two. I was literally crying. That's why I kept my camera off when I saw this part of the video, because I didn't see this part. I saw the whole, there's a long compilation of these protesters, and I saw this part. I was laughing so fucking hard, I had to keep my camera off because I was fucking crying, bro. This is the reality of the genocidal psychosis that swept over a large percentage of white America. Because if you look at the people who oppose Zionism, it's black and brown people. And now we are, and I want to say majority because I had to change my narrative. I was doing factual. I was calling out white America a lot when that number was like 80%. Now you're seeing evangelical Christians turn against the white evangelicals, and I acknowledge reality. And they seen what happened, they shifted, which is good. But then you have these motherfuckers who see politics as a team sport, who don't want to hear the truth. Actually, I want to watch it again.
We're sending billions of our taxpayers dollars to kill children and women. 30,000 people have been murdered. We're sending.
I can't even begin to tell you guys how many times I watched that video. And I am extremely glad. Big shout out to Karaoke Computer, a mutual of mine, who clipped this. This clip went fucking mega viral, fam. We covered this shit before a lot of people found it on Tuesday. And I am so glad that out of all the clips we covered, this clip of people going crazy as victims of capitalism. You guys know this guy's base as hell. Victims of capitalism. That's what he said. I'm not trying to take his idea. Peepaw is shaking with rage. That's such a great fucking comment. That's such a great caption, my friend. Peepaw is shaking with rage over being forced to hear about an ongoing genocide. So I'm glad that went viral, and I'm glad to share with you guys that we have more footage of this guy. We got more footage of this guy. I really wish I had this on Tuesday. We got more from this guy. Listen to this. Oh, let me big screen it. Come on.
Palestinian children need to be killed. How many? I have a question. You sit down. How many Palestinian children need to be killed?
This motherfucker is about to have a heart attack because people are speaking out against power, my friends. And I'm deeply sorry to cover this more than once, but this is new footage. You guys can see how deeply fucking unhinged these liberal boomers are. Like, this guy probably used to be a hippie. I can see it. Do you guys know why we do propaganda report? people are like, why you cover Morning Joe? Why you cover these propaganda channels? Because someone is watching them. A lot more than that watch RBN. These are the people who watch CNN, MSNBC. These are the people who have watched and post subscriptions. These are the people who subscribe to the New York Times. What do you guys think happens when a populace is propagandized to the extent in which we are over a very, very long period of time? This is what happens. You have a populace turn full of sycophants towards power. I cannot even begin to explain to you guys, and people who follow RBN know this, how completely unimpressed I am with this country and its populace. The amount of brainwashed motherfuckers going around protecting power. That's not by accident. They're this way because of the propaganda, which is why it's so important for us to show and expose how crazy they are. Let's watch this meltdown one more time.
How many Palestinian children need to be killed? How many? I have a question. You sit down. How many Palestinian children need to be killed?
Bro, everyone in the world feels bad, kind of, for this white lady here. But remember, fam, no one benefits more from white supremacy than a white woman. She chose him. But that look that she has represents the look that we all have towards these motherfuckers. And I'm beyond done holding back how I feel about this country. I'm not. Like, if you want a channel that make you feel great about this country, that make you feel great about race relations, there's not a channel for you. We're not here for that toxic positivity. This country is deeply mentally diseased, which is why they provide people with a ton of pills. They give a ton of people antidepressants and pills and tell them that their brain is broken instead of that there's something wrong with this society. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. I'm sorry I can't read all your guys' comments. I see some of them sometime. Grandma Mary, that psychopath, she has to sleep in that bed. Yep. I don't feel bad for her. Remember, the biggest benefactor of white supremacy is white women. They benefit from it more than ever. I covered before, I actually wrote about it, I think in my third op-ed. A lot of people forget, like, after Jim Crow ended, white people who wanted to maintain the system then moved into law enforcement in order to maintain a legal system of Jim Crow, which is why they stole our wealth using civil asset forfeiture and other legal means. You guys want to know what white women did? You guys think they stood on the sidelines? No. The white men became cops and soldiers. The white women became teachers and nurses. They became racist teachers and nurses that created an unequal system for us in education and healthcare. I got to spare you guys a rant here because I covered this before. But the inequalities in healthcare, the inequalities in education is directly because of this. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about the genocidal psychosis. This is a Republican congressperson, I think it's from Tennessee, who endorses the genocide of Palestinian people. I seen a comment somewhere. I don't remember where it was directed to. Well, it was like, why don't people protest the Republicans? I seen a few, like a lot of people. It was after AOC was called out. A lot of people was like, why are you guys calling out AOC? Why not you calling out the Republicans? Well, it's a bad faith thing to say because they are. Secondly, because we don't expect anything from Republicans. We don't call out the people who claim to represent us and our ideals. But with that said, I do think you should call out anyone who represent your area. If you live in a red state, you should call out the Republicans. If you got a genocidal representative, you should call out the Republicans. Now, I focus on Democrats because I live in a largely black congressional caucus area. My congressman is Emmanuel Cleaver, a black Zionist who's against Medicare for all. He's a black capitalist. And now you guys wonder why I got this pent-up anger towards the black capitalist class? Because those are the people who represent me and my people. Black mayors, black Democrats, black capitalists are the people who represent me and my people. That's why I generally have more feelings towards them. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene don't represent me. Emmanuel Cleaver does. Eric Adams represent our people. You know what I mean? I'm blanking on the name of that Atlantic mayor. Fuck. I'm sorry, but that black mayor in Atlanta who's building Cop City, they represent us. So why should I spend my time focused on Marjorie Taylor Greene and Republicans when we are represented by Democrats? That don't make sense. But once again, RBN, one of the few people who actually take politics seriously. Now to my point, if you live in like actually Chuck Felshman, what district is he? Chuck? Fuck, that's a weird ass name. They said we got ghetto names. That's a ghetto ass name. Fleshman? Oh no, I can't even begin to know how to say that. I'm trying to see what district you represent. Tennessee. So if you're in Tennessee, I think you definitely should be doing this. Cause look at what this motherfucker says.
Palestinians, I will never support them.
Why do you support the genocide and all of the war crimes and collective punishment? Are you concerned about all the children?
Let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. Israel is our ally, will always be our ally.
Even if they commit war crimes?
They are not guilty of genocide, and I will support Israel forever.
Israel will stay your ally, even though they commit
Israel
genocide.
Will be
Even
that's
that.
your term.
Even
Can
when
you
they
explain?
kill,
That is your term.
even when they kill 30,000
What
kids,
they
that is
did
a
to the
statistic.
Israeli
That's a
people
statistic.
on October. Let me tell you a statistic.
Yeah, please.
Israel will exist. The Jewish state will exist.
That's not a
It will always
statistic.
exist.
That's not what we're.
And that is for
That
God
has absolutely
to do
nothing
and
to do with what we're
decide.
saying.
And I will
You
always
already
support
support
Israel.
genocide, sir. You're
I will
supporting
always
the
support
murder of
Israel,
little children.
and you can tell the Palestinians I will
I
never
am a
support them.
Palestinian myself.
And I will tell you, I will never support you.
Yeah?
I will tell you to your
And
face.
you want my you want my cousins
Goodbye
to
to
die.
Palestine. Goodbye to
Goodbye
Israel.
to Palestine.
Goodbye
You
to
want to watch
Palestine.
Palestine?
We will support Israel forever.
So
No.
you are
I will
comfortable
always
with
So just
support Israel.
FYI, this guy just said goodbye
Always
to Palestine.
support
Yes.
Israel.
you.
Okay.
So you just said goodbye to Palestine. So you are
Goodbye.
saying you are comfortable with the murder of thousands of children.
The Jewish people will never
You are
suffer
not
again
answering the
under
question.
Palestinian terrorism, under Hamas, under Hezbollah.
What about
Israel will be secure
30,000
forever.
innocent
Okay.
God bless
civilians?
Israel forever.
Thank
So
you
you want to
for
wipe Palestine off the earth? Yeah.
God
Yes.
bless
Yeah.
Israel forever.
This is a person who claims he represents the Make American Great Again movement. This is the result of millions and millions and millions of dollars, $100 million just this election by AIPAC buying politicians. They care more about the state of Israel than they do Americans. And it's clear, look how angry they get when you call out their masters. And look at if the ICJ, and there are a lot of lawyers, there are a lot of, I've seen South African lawyers was floating the idea of prosecuting the UK and the United States and France for being complicit with genocide. That's a very popular idea that's catching steam and something we may see in the future. If that happens, we have a statement from a United States representative that is 100% pro-genocide. So I had a viral tweet that said this, and I will say it again. White America said with a straight face that you are genocidal if you say to the river to the sea. If you say from the river to the sea, you're genocidal. But if you say bye Palestine, if you say goodbye Palestine, that's not genocidal? Because of capitalist dictatorship, we have these representatives that are openly supporting and expressing the will to commit genocide. You guys see in the clip, he said, that's your term, not mine. No, it's a term that majority of the world population will apply to Israel, including recognized by the International Court of Justice. And then he said, well, I don't think there's a genocide. And then he proceeds to endorse a genocide. From the river to the sea, genocidal. Bye-bye Palestinian, not genocidal. You got to know that they censured Rashid Tlaib for saying from the river to the sea. But we have all these Republicans that are essentially saying that, yeah, fuck all the Palestinians, they deserve to die. No censure at all. Which is why no one should respect the institution of the United States Congress. This is why no one should be a fucking duopolist. Because this guy is MAGA. He's a Trump endorsee. You guys seen Trump? He's a cuck on Israel. MAGA is a cuck to Israel. All these guys will fight for Israel way harder than they will ever fight for you. Trump's Gaza comments highlight tough choice for peace-supporting U.S. voters. What tough choice? You guys see how the corporate media covers this shit? And now I see a lot of liberals that say, oh, see, you guys think that it's actually worth the damn to vote against Biden. Trump believes in genocide just as much. Well, Trump is accurately expressing what Biden is doing. So at least Trump is being honest. And if Trump was in office, we probably could have had enough pressure to prevent the genocide because none of the Democrats would have sided with Donald Trump in the middle of a genocide. All these liberals who would never criticize Democrats, they would have been criticizing Trump they would be in the streets with us. All these Zionist Democrats would turn on Israel real quick just because of Trump. But because of Biden, they had to excuse it. They had to lie to the populace. And they pretend it's a tough choice. Former president's rhetoric shows voters seeking to punish Joe Biden for backing Israel face dilemma in the upcoming election. And fam, I am asking you guys, what dilemma do we face? Because to me, the objective is quite clear. I am voting for the anti-genocide candidate. I will support the anti-genocide candidate. You support a third party. If there is no anti-genocide candidate in a duopoly, which there will never be. So I'll wrap it there because I got one more story. I'm gonna keep this 1 hour tonight. Let's read some super chats so I don't get too buried behind. And then we're gonna cover Sweden joining NATO. Let's see, is there anything I forgot in that story? I think I got everything. Yeah, I think I got everything. We covered one more story today. We covered Sweden joining NATO. So I'll make sure I'm not clickbaiting you guys. Make sure I want to cover all the topics, at least in the title. I've been doing like 2 hours straight, 3 hours straight. It's been possible. When I started this show, I said I'm gonna do 1 hour shows. That shit's been impossible. I think I can pop out a 3 hour show. I've been popping out 3 hour shows every day. I think I'm gonna keep it 1 hour tonight. So let's read some super chats. Thanks for the $5, ARJ. There's a 2018 AOC video interview on some garbage conservative show, Firing Line, where she backed down when challenged about her Palestine comments. Absolutely does not surprise me. She has always been weak on the issue, which is why the people who were defending her said, why are you calling out AOC? She spoke out against genocide. No, she has not. The hell? I seen a video where AOC was talking about Cuba. She had no idea about what was going on in Cuba. Like, that was a very long time ago. I mean, that was like one during the early days of RBN. I remember this segment clear as day. I'm talking about like maybe the first few months when we were still FHL. I did a segment where AOC was talking about Cuba. I was like, bro, what? Yeah. And then she has no idea about what the fuck is going on in foreign affairs. But anyway, let's move on. Of course, she's an ineffective leader. And that was the point of my video I was making at the time, was explaining like AOC, even if you disagree with our criticism, because this was like 3 years ago before a lot of people were comfortable criticizing her. I was like, guys, even if you're uncomfortable with my criticism of AOC, she's an ineffective leader. She can't even explain why the Cuban embargo is bad, why Zionism is bad. Thanks for the 999, John. Boomer exit 2024. I said it many times, but all our boomer friends know that I love you guys. And I got a lot of respect for boomers who see through the bullshit, the dissidents of their generations. So my rants always exclude those people because I have a respect for them. But everyone else, fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them. And I think future generations are allowed to be upset at the old generations that failed them. Thank for the $20. Reeve Barber just got off Xanax. Totally get the problem with meds. My head doctor was almost disappointed I was able to get off of it. Red flags. Despite the fact I had told him I felt like I was hooked on it before my PCP said get off that stuff. Oh, Jesus Christ. I gotta hold myself back from a rain here. You gotta know how I feel about that shit. I struggled with depression a lot of my teenage years. And I'm very proud of how I overcame it. And that's why, like, when people get mad when they're like, Nick is so arrogant. Nick is always bragging. Nick is so fucking arrogant. Whenever people say that about me, I'm like, fuck yes. Because you guys understand how opposite it used to be? How fucked up my mental health used to be? How much I used to hate myself? So whenever people say, Nick, you're so arrogant, I'm like, damn, I came a long way. And I did that without these fucking bullshit pills that they're prescribing people. And I'm not allowing people to intimidate me on this issue no more because I've got a lot of trouble. A lot of people got upset with me. A lot of people feel like I'm delegitimizing what they're going through, and I am absolutely not. I'm telling people they're being misdiagnosed. I'm not saying your mental illness is not real. I am saying that this is a symptom of our society. But because they want to turn people to worker robots, they're not telling us the truth about this. But anyway, I don't want to go on another rant. You guys heard my opinions on this before. And I also do want to add this caveat, guys. I'm not a doctor. You listen to your body. You guys know more than I do. So if you are someone who disagree with me, you feel like you're doing stuff that helps you, you feel like that's great for you, fine. Listen to your body, listen to your soul, listen to your spirit. That is way more important to listen to me or anyone else. That's how I generally feel. That's why I don't talk about health stuff a lot. Because even if you agree with me, like at the end of the day, the most important thing is to listen to your body. Listen to your spirit, listen to your soul. If you feel like these drugs are fucking you up, if you have doctors that gaslighting you about that shit, like many people are, like this person is, listen to your body. If you feel like I'm gaslighting you, if you feel like anyone's gaslighting you about health, listen to your body, my friends. So I had to add a caveat above all else. Our boy Michael Smith. We get to eat today. We get to eat, my friends. We get to eat. My man Michael with a 399. I was like, huh? Shit. I'm glad I didn't do the State of the Union address tonight. If I didn't State of the Union address tonight, I probably wouldn't have got this super chat. So I'm not gonna pretend it's not a big deal. This is a big deal. We don't make a lot of money at RBN. So I'm not gonna be fucking fake and pretend that this is not a big deal. This is a big deal. So I appreciate it, Michael. We really don't make a lot of money here. I'm not going to pretend that this is not a big deal. It is. So thank you, Michael. So let me read this very, very generous super chat. Please give Michael a big W in the chat. You said the death count could be as high as 200,000. It's only been a few months. Can Gaza really wait 7 more for us to try to teach Dems a lesson? This is actually a really good point. I'm going to continue. They have already decided they don't want to learn. Dems will just ratchet to the right talking about Gaza through the lens of voting. It's just more of what happened since October. So not only is this a generous super chat, this is based because you guys heard RBN's criticism of uncommitted. Now, Democrats are freaking about uncommitted because it's embarrassing. There are people who are trying to take the uncommitted vote and sheep herd people back to the Democratic Party. But I do believe that there are a lot of good faith people that will not vote for Biden who vote uncommitted. So there are two things that can be true at once. There are people who are trying to take advantage of uncommitted, the sheep herd people in the Democrat Party, and then there are also people who are legitimately rebelling against the system. And that's why, even though I have criticisms of it, I try not to attack it and undermine it too much because at least they're doing something. You know what I mean? But what this guy is saying is 100% true, and is why RBN we are generally against electoralism. If you think that uncommitted is going to prevent Palestinians from being killed, you're delusional. And not only is this a great, very generous super chat, this is a great point, my friend. So thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. Wow, thank you. So thank you for $5, Mordardo Garcia. as long as the public continues to support either of these corrupt parties, should anyone care about what they have to say? Absolutely. Well said. This is the last story. I guess I don't need a lot of time to do it because I promised myself I was going to keep this one to an hour. So, especially because, to be honest, I'm going to catch some of the I'm going to cut some of the State of the Union highlights maybe a little bit later tonight. That's why I didn't really care about watching it live. I'll just catch the highlights. I did 2-hour show, 3-hour show, 3-hour show. I think I'm going to do 1 hour tonight. I don't think this is going to be a long story. This is Sweden joining NATO extensively ever since it was floated that Sweden can join NATO, because this is just another example of how the West wants to provoke never-ending conflict. Now, what they say about this conflict and the reality of them joining NATO is completely contradictory. So what they will say, they say that we have to have Sweden join NATO because Russia is invading their neighbors, and we need to join NATO to keep Sweden safe. The only thing that would put Sweden in danger is if they join NATO. Sweden already gets security assurances as an EU state. We covered this over a year ago. Look at my hotspot history. But you can just search my Twitter, or you can search our account. Actually, I might find it because I know I fucking covered this shit. Where they get EU security assurances. Also, Ukraine is not a member of NATO, and they are still providing assistance to Ukraine. So if Russia did invade Sweden, which they would never do, the West would still intervene. The only thing that could possibly put Sweden in danger is if they join NATO, which is a red line that Russia has said for years and years. This breaks a neutrality agreement that Sweden and Russia had for decades. So just like the Minsk Accords, just like Europe has done to Russia for decades, it's been broken agreement after broken agreement after broken agreement. Now, here's the headline for people only listening. Sweden officially joins NATO, ending decades of post-World War II neutrality. They say that like it's a good thing, my friends. That's a horrible thing. National security experts, and I'm not talking about peace activists, but national security experts have been saying for years that a buffer between Russia and the West is key for maintaining peace. Swedish peace activists have been stressing the fact that we have to be a buffer. Our neutrality stance helps leads to and elevates the peace process. So now Sweden and the West is more than happy to throw that away, because the goal, and I cannot stress this enough, is not to deter Russian aggression. The deter is not for peace and stability. The goal is for never-ending conflict. So I got 2 short clips I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys Blinken talking about this. Here are just headlines. Sweden's NATO ascensions in era of going alone security. You know that thing that's been working for Sweden for decades? Now, I don't want you guys to misunderstand this. Oh, yeah, Rob, this is a good comment. I'm glad whenever I can see some of these comments. When was Sweden last invaded by anyone? Exactly. So why would you have to join NATO? Unless NATO is a just arms manufacturing, money laundering scheme, which it is. But I don't want people to understand. This is what I was about to say earlier. I don't want people to think that Sweden is like pacifist country. And I've learned this because I used to be one of those people. Look, if you look at my old tweets, I did this when I was looking at receipts. My old praise of Sweden and Finland is so cringe because I told you guys I went through like a social democrat phase before I became a Marxist. I'm very open about my mistakes I made. And I used to be like, man, Finland and Sweden is much better than the West. When they are, social democracy is better than neoliberal capitalism. But I used to elevate them in a way they didn't deserve because they got their wealth and ill-gotten means through colonialism, through exploitation. And also, do you guys know Sweden is one of the largest arms shippers in the world? In fact, Sweden, actually, let me show you guys the receipt. I didn't have it saved, but you guys know I love showing you guys receipts. Yemen arms. Sweden was one of the largest arms dealers during the genocide against Yemen. So Bernie Crats, Social Democrats, they tend to whitewash what Sweden and Finland is, but Sweden is a arms dealing country. Let me see if I can find one more receipt for you guys, so you guys will believe me. Arms industry. Sweden arms exports rose 18. I didn't see this one. Sweden arms exports rose 18% in 2023. Wow. Is Sweden complicit in war crimes in Yemen? Yeah, they are. Right? So this is one of the things I used to do. I used to praise Sweden. They don't deserve praise. If you're honest, anyone can admit that having a welfare form of capitalism is inherently better than neoliberal capitalism, but that doesn't mean you're still a moral state. It still doesn't mean you're an ideology that we should strive to achieve. Now, before I wrap up this segment, I'm gonna show you guys just a little bit what Blinken says. I don't have to. I may interrupt it. We see. I was about to say I don't want to make promises. Because I don't want to be too long on this. So I just want to show a little bit of the comments, and then I'm gonna show you guys a segment I've seen from Democracy Now, because the Swedish peace movement has been against this from day one. Even Democracy Now did a segment covering this over a year ago. I'm gonna show you guys just a little bit of that. But here's Anthony Blinken. I'll just play this so you guys see what the State Department is saying, and we move on.
Our NATO alliance, our defensive alliance, is now stronger and larger than it's ever been. But I think if you step back and think of where we were 3 years ago, none of this was foreordained, and in fact, none of this was foreseeable. Sweden had a 200-year-old policy of non-alignment. And before Putin's re-invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022, if you looked at the polling, less than 1/3 of Swedes supported joining NATO. This was part and parcel of Sweden's history. And then everything changed. After the invasion, 3/4 of the Swedish people made clear their desire to join. Swedes realized something very profound, that if Putin was willing to try to erase one neighbor from the map, then he might well not stop there. And if he was
I'm sorry, I must interrupt at this point. I'm sorry, guys, but you guys see, this is the lie that they keep spreading. Putin, in multiple interviews, not just the Tucker interview, but multiple interviews, keep saying that they have absolutely no plans to invade any other country outside of Ukraine. They view Ukraine as a red flag that has been in position for years. In fact, Russia actually caved. Let me see if I can find this receipt. I'll let it play because I'm gonna try to find this receipt where Russia said at the beginning of this conflict that if Sweden and Finland join NATO, that it would trigger possibly a nuclear response and an escalation. Then they said that not because they were serious, but because they were trying to deter the West from doing something like that. Then the West, because they're fucking crazy, decided to call their bluff. They decided to call their bluff. Here it is. I actually found it. Wow. So here's what article I reported on almost 2 years ago. I remember reporting on this very specifically. Russia warns of nuclear hypersonic deployment if Sweden and Finland join NATO. And let me see if I can find another receipt. I may not find it, but if I can't find it, please take my word for it, because I reported on this earlier before. And Russia later walked this back and oh yeah, whatever. At first, they was like, Sweden and Finland joining NATO is a red line. It will lead to drastic escalation. And then once they realized that Sweden and NATO and Finland about to join NATO, they was like, all right, whatever, fuck it. We don't really care. Fuck it. They're like, we don't really care. Fuck it. We just said that because we didn't want you guys them to join NATO, but we don't want to start a world war. So fuck it. That's essentially what they said. It was the same thing with China, where remember when Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan and China was like, bro, if you go to Taiwan, we're about to fuck shit up, bro. I promise you. They was bluffing, and they never did shit. You guys notice this happens all the time? This happens all the time where countries had to say crazy shit to stop the United States from doing crazy shit, and then the United States do crazy shit, and then they force us to walk it back. That's what the United States have done to China over and over again. That's what the United States did to Russia over and over again in Ukraine. So, actually, where was I? I kind of got off. But anyway, I wanted to correct this lie by Blinken because they use it to justify continuing conflict with Russia. They use it to justify having Sweden join NATO, having Japan double their military budget, having these countries. Apparently, I just learned this looking for another story. Sweden increased their arms exports by 18%. Actually, where is it? Here it is. I'll put it on the screen. I just found it looking for something else. Sweden's arm exports rose 18% in 2023. You have the German military that is becoming militarized for the first time since the Nazis. They was a country that decided to become more pacifist. And now they're doubling down on military spending based on this lie that Putin plans to invade Europe, which did not serve them in their interests at all. And if you really believe that, why are you pretending that Russia is so weak that they can't defeat Ukraine? If your guys' narrative is true, that Russia can't defeat Ukraine, why would anyone be worried about them storming over Europe? Doesn't make sense at face value. You guys see this headline. Germany pledges to make its military the backbone of defense in Europe. So I just play. We already over a little bit over time. I'll just play a little bit more Blinken, and then we watch. I'm gonna show just a little bit at Democracy Now!
To continue, but would-be aggressors everywhere would get the message that it was open season. And so the Swedish people stood up not only for their own country, but stood up to the common responsibility that we share to try to make sure that the very foundations of the international system that we all rely on to have peace, to have security, to have opportunity, when they were challenged, we were there to defend them. Sweden was there to defend them. And I think what this tells us even more profoundly is the reaffirmation of Sweden's democratic character.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I think we can wrap up here. We don't hear that bullshit, but you got during this press conference, I watched the whole thing so I can help sum it up. He also had this dipshit speak. Is that the prime minister? Who's that? Yeah, they had the Swedish prime minister. I don't know why I didn't catch that the first time. I thought it was just some dipshit. I guess it's the Swedish prime minister. So they had this joint press conference where they talking about how great it was to join NATO. They essentially talking about this is for peace and security. This is not for peace and security. This is the only thing that could put Sweden in conflict. Sweden's policy of neutrality not only benefited the world, but clearly it benefited them. Now, I'm going to skip ahead to, because, you know, Democracy Now! Usually do a long intro. For a second time, I'm going to skip the intro. In the beginning, remember, this video is a year ago. I'm showing you guys this because this is one of them. This is a really good segment for Democracy Now! I have a ton of criticism of Democracy Now!, but I will acknowledge when they do good work. This is a good segment. I saw this segment a year ago. I was like, damn, I can't believe they're airing this. Because to sum up the intro, they essentially talk about how you had these Swedish prime ministers. You notice that Sanna Marin, she's no longer prime minister. all these people who supported this war, all these people who support NATO, they're all gone. Zelensky about to be fucked too. Meanwhile, Putin is stronger than ever. Isn't that interesting? So that I'm some of the intro. They essentially talk about everything that we just talked about. Essentially, with Sweden joining NATO, they actually do a good job explaining why Sweden joining NATO is bad. But what I want to show you guys, I want to show you this clip from her because she's a Swedish anti-war activist, and I'm showing you guys this because I can't stress enough how the anti-war movement in Sweden is being completely repressed, being completely silenced. The propaganda that Sweden and Finland have been subjected to has been insane in order to get them in NATO. Everyone who's been speaking out against this have been retaliated against. And obviously, since this segment was a year ago, these people end up losing. But don't take my word for it. I want you guys to listen to her, who's actually an anti-war activist. I think she's part of this anti-war group that is like the oldest anti-war peace group in Europe, something like that. But anyway, I let the clip play. I think it's very fascinating.
Group. Some say it's the oldest in the world, founded in 1883. Trajan Society, the country's oldest peace group. Some say it's the oldest in the world, founded in 1883. Agnes, welcome to Democracy Now! Your response. I mean, this is an incredible, even seeing these two women, which is historic. They are standing there, though, saying they want to join this military alliance, NATO. If you can...
Now, let's unpack that. Because I remember when the Finnish and the Swedish prime minister was elected, everyone was like, isn't this great thing? We have two progressive women, female leaders. And then those leaders end up becoming some of the most unhinged, pro-Nazi, pro-war politicians in their country's history. Isn't that interesting? The first ever female Swedish prime minister was the one who ended Sweden neutrality. So they kind of point that out. You can see the disappointment, but I'll let it continue.
Saying they want to join this. I mean, this is an incredible, even seeing these two women, which is historic. They are standing there, though, saying they want to join this military alliance, NATO. If you can respond.
Well, the Swedish Peace and Arbitration Society, we are against the Swedish membership in NATO, and that therefore I'm, as a feminist, extra sad that the steps are taking so quickly now towards the membership. And the main reason that we don't think it would make us safer or the world more secure. It would make us part of a nuclear doctrine, and our possibility to be a voice for democracy, prevention, and disarmament would decrease.
And Agnes, could you talk about whether, since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, popular public support for joining NATO has increased in Sweden, as it has in Finland, where reportedly recent polls suggest almost 70% of Finns support joining NATO?
Yeah. The recent debate in Sweden has been very narrow and pro-NATO, I would say. But the polls they have still that's been made, they still don't show support from a majority of the people of Sweden. So I think that it has been growing, the support, but at the same time, it's been the only option presented to us. I
remember at the time when I reported this, I seen a poll where Swedish people was around 50-50 in their support of NATO. And now remember, and I think they're going to explain this here in the segment, one of the reasons why this is, and one of the reasons why the numbers tipped in Finland, even though people used to be against it, is because the same unhinged pro-Ukraine propaganda we've seen in the United States and the West, Sweden and Finland got that, but like on steroids. Any Swedish politician who spoke out against joining NATO was branded as a Putin puppet, as an agent of Russia. All these peace groups was branded as pro-Russian. And people started to fold. So that what happened, but I'll let this continue for a little bit here.
Growing the support, but at the same time, it's been the only option presented to us by the media, more or less. And I think it's really important, this kind of big decision, that it has to be a wide debate, and it has to be the people must be included in this kind of really big change in our policy.
Agnes Hellstrom, for people who aren't familiar with Sweden's history, if you can talk about the history of neutrality and why it is so central to Sweden's identity.
I'll wrap up after this. I think this will be good.
Yes, I don't remember the exact year when we decided on the neutrality policy, and it's also been abandoned for a more non-aligned policy, military. But it's been a country that had peace for more than 200 years, and a lot to thank has been our choice to be more of a voice for diplomacy and for disarmament, and to in the international forum represent those issues more than to take side or to choose an ally in that kind of way as NATO is.
I guess as members,
I'll wrap up with that question there. I wanted to show this because she's a activist. I think this is it. I'm trying to get the name of the organization again. She for the Swedish Peace and Arbitration Society. Apparently, this is one of the longest lasting pro-peace, anti-war movements in Europe. So the left in Sweden was against joining NATO. But you got to notice how in the UK and in the West, the NATO left is cheering this on. There has been a coordinated effort to turn the left-wing position into supporting NATO. And it worked on the Bernie Sanders left. It worked on the Sam Cedars, the Emma Vigelands, the Nina Turners. I still remember on the show, I covered this a long time ago, how Nina Turner, like, yeah, of course I support the funding for the Ukraine war. They all NATO leftists. Meanwhile, the real left in Sweden and Finland are opposing this. The real left in the UK, not the Labour Party, they're a neocon party, but the George Galloways, who just won. They are being utterly suppressed by the fascist movement that has grown and reached its peak in Europe. These anti-war voices have been silenced, and the fact that Sweden has given up over 200 years of peace, centuries of peace based on their neutrality program for NATO? Man, people have no idea how badly they've been sold out by their governments. But anyway, let me read this last super chat as we wrap up. I think this is a good stream. Very good stream. A little bit over an hour, about 70 minutes. I think I'm doing better. You know what I mean, my friends? Big shout out to all the people on X. I don't know, fam, is this shit glitching, bro? Because this is like the third live stream I've seen where we had hundreds and hundreds of live viewers on X. I don't trust Elon, so this shit easily could be glitching. You guys see this? 583 live viewers. So my number up here is showing that we have 1,200 live viewers across all platforms. So, and let me put this up. Is this shit a glitch, bro? Because I don't know what, like, bro, X been posting my shit. I'm getting a lot of views on X. If that is real, X is popping right now in terms of live streaming. I don't know if these numbers are real. But I guess for my ego, I guess I pretend it is. So between X, YouTube, Rumble, we had like 1,200 live viewers for tonight. And we've been that way for the last week or so, mostly because the X is popping. But I would acknowledge that I have no idea how accurate these fucking X numbers are, bro. No idea. But anyway, if they are real, hopefully you enjoyed the show if you've been watching on X. Anyway, last super chat today. Thank you for $20, ARJ, for another great super chat. I appreciate your super chats, ARJ. Minpress News reported that Euromed Human Rights Monitor has stated that they found UK-produced NATO bullets in Gaza. The RBN shirt about NATO holds true. Absolutely. I think that's our best shirt. Let me see if I can find it. That's a good time to plug our merch as we wrap the stream up. I need to get some more. I need to get some more merch. I keep saying that, but I need to go ahead and do it. I think one of our shirts. There it is. This is a mug. I know we got a shirt version of this as well. Bro, that's a fucking powerful ass mug. I don't got my screenshot. Let me put my screen up. That's a powerful ass mug. I gotta find the hoodie version of this. NATO is a terrorist organization. Fuck, I need to start putting the merch link in the fucking description. I forgot. I think I forgot again, didn't I? I need to stop doing that. But we have merch. You guys see me wear the shirts all the time. This one's a good shirt to wear right now. The lesser two evils is what got us here. We got a ton of fucking bangers, friends. Oh, I think that was probably a bag, wasn't it? Yeah, here's the shirts. Why don't I have a completely unserious shirt? If anyone should be wearing a completely unserious shirt, it should be fucking me. Here's the NATO. This is what I'm gonna get probably. I'm probably gonna get this one. You know what I mean? Oh shit, where'd it go? I'm just plugging our merch here. I mean, we get summertime, you know. I gotta get the gym, you know. I'm putting my muscle shirt back on, bro. You know what I mean? Get the gun, you know. I need to get my guns back this summer. Then I can wear this shirt. Not quite this young man I used to be. Man, I would rock the shit out of this super shirt in my teenage years. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy the stream. I'll be back on Saturday. Saturday, we got a great stream planned for you guys. Nick at Noon will start an hour earlier at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to have my great friend and someone who's running for office, Jose Vega. He's returning to RBN once again. So it's always great to talk to our good friend Jose. He's going to be joining me at Nick at Noon. Nick at Noonish? 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that's what I have coming up on Saturday. I have more guests I'm planning. I'm about to have Misty on again next week. I have a few more guests I got down the pipeline booking. I'll let you guys know. I appreciate you guys for watching. Have a good night.